The territory of New Mexico, in the blistering summer of 1880, seemed perpetually stained the color of rust and dried blood. A thick, relentless plume of red dust trailed the four riders as they crossed the cracked alkali flats toward the scarred outpost of Dust Devil Creek. At the head rode William H. Bonney, known throughout the land as Billy the Kid, his young face perpetually shadowed by the brim of a dark Stetson. He wasn't seeking trouble, but trouble, a loyal coyote, always seemed to follow the sharp clink of his silver spurs. Beside him were his shadows, the towering, quiet strength of Tomo Folliard, the wiry, eagle-eyed Charlie Boder, and the thoughtful, almost scholarly Doc Scurlock. Their purpose here was simple: resupply and rest. But as they rode into the main street, the expected din of a frontier town, the clatter of a piano, the rough laughter of cowhands, the screech of a rusty saloon door, was replaced by an unnerving, heavy silence. The buildings looked brittle, the wooden facades bleached by years of sun and neglect. It was the silence of a town that had been beaten into submission. Billy dismounted near the general store, the dry, hot air clinging to his skin. "This place feels like a grave that ain't been dug yet," Charlie muttered, tightening the leather reins on his rifle stock. Doc Scurlock adjusted his glasses, scanning the few faces that peered out from behind lace curtains. Faces etched with fear, not curiosity. Inside the store, Billy found the source of their unusual stop. Sitting alone on a wooden crate, bathed in the single beam of light filtering through the dusty window, was an old man. He was dressed in worn but clean buckskins, a long rough beard covering his chest, and his hands, calloused and strong, rested on a heavy brass-tipped walking stick. His eyes were milky white, fixed blankly on the ceiling. A blind man. The silence stretched until Billy deliberately let the heavy leather of his gun belt squeak. The blind man, Silas Cole, turned his head immediately toward the sound. "Are you him? Are you Bonnie? They told me you might pass through this stretch, that sometimes the devil's own hear the pleas that God ignores." "I hear a lot of things, old man. Most of them are lies." Billy's voice was low, cautious, but not unkind. "This ain't no lie." Silas tapped the floor with his stick. "My eyes failed me 6 months back, but that ain't when I went blind. I went blind the day they hung my son-in-law, Clayton. He was a sheep herder. Didn't own a thing but his sheep and the good word." Silas's story unfolded slowly, heavy with the weight of raw injustice. The land, the only decent grazing land in the valley, was wanted by Baron Silas Kane, a railroad magnate who used his wealth to buy lawmen instead of railroads. Caney's puppet, Sheriff Rance, and his brutal deputy, Jed the Regulator Stone, came to collect. They couldn't buy Clay, so they tried to frame him for cattle rustling. My boy fought back. Stone put a bullet in him, then claimed self-defense. But I saw it, Bonnie. I saw Stone plant the branding iron next to Clay's body. I told the judge I'd testify. Silas paused, his face twisting with the agonizing memory. "They didn't kill me. Stone and Rance dragged me out here, right to this store. Stone heated a branding iron, said that if my eyes saw too much, they wouldn't see nothing at all. Billy, they branded my eyes. I can still feel the iron, pressing the darkness into my soul. They left me here to starve, a witness without sight. They thought by taking my sight, they'd take my voice." The words were brutal, visceral. The mental image of the hot iron left a stinging silence in the store. Even Tomo Folliard, hardened by years on the run, shifted uncomfortably. Billy felt the cold, familiar pressure of his personal code. He never suffered a coward or the abuse of the defenseless. "And where's your family now, old man?" "My daughter, Sarah, Clay's wife, she's in hiding up in the foothills. She's the only other witness. She has the papers, the real land claims Caney wants. She swore she'd wait until a man with a gun came for justice. The law won't do it. Caney owns the law." Doc Scurlock stepped forward, his expression severe. "This is not about money, kid. This is about honor. They didn't just kill a man. They destroyed the very capacity for truth. The only thing worse than a thief is a thief who blinds the witness." Billy looked at the blind man. Silas Cole's appeal was not desperate. It was a cold, absolute demand for parity. "You came to the right place, Silas. Hell heard you, and I'm its errand boy. We'll ride for your justice." The promise was given, a solemn vow exchanged in the dust of a forgotten town. But as they prepared to ride out, Charlie Bowdra returned from scouting the high ground, his face grim. "Kid, 3 riders just pulled into that dry wash outside town. They're Caney's boys. They ain't stopping. They're setting up on the ridge overlooking this main road. They know someone's talking to the prophet. They're watching us, Billy. They want to see where we ride next." Billy smiled, a thin, dangerous smile that rarely promised peace. "Then we'll give them a show, Charlie. But first, we ride the opposite way. Doc, Tom, secure the east road. We need to lose these watchers before we can even begin to hunt. We've got a score to settle for a man who lost his eyes for the truth." The gang vanished into the labyrinthine badlands of the territory, shaking off Caney's sloppy surveillance team in the jagged maze of sandstone and dry riverbeds. They regrouped late that night in a secluded, wind-whipped canyon known only to them, Echo Canyon. The air was cooler now, but the ground was still radiating the heat absorbed during the brutal day. The only sound was the constant low sigh of the desert wind. Doc Scurlock, the group's reluctant intellect, spread out a map salvaged from the general store, marking it with charcoal. "Baron Kane's operation runs out of the Iron Brand Ranch. It's less a ranch and more a fortress, but the law, Sheriff Rance, runs the town. We can't hit the fortress without removing his shield. Sheriff Rance and Jed Stone. They're the target," Billy stated, cleaning the firing pin of his Colt, .45 with a scrap of oiled leather. "Silas the prophet said Rance is his boss, but Stone is the snake. Stone is the one who took the iron to his eyes. He pays first." Jose Chavez y Chavez, whose knowledge of the trails was encyclopedic, had been scouting Kane's routes. "Stone, the regulator. He's not at the sheriff's office tonight. He's up in the Vulture's Nest gambling hall, 3 miles north of the creek. He's collecting protection money and keeping Kane's payroll safe. He takes about 6 guns with him. Heavy odds, Captain." Tomo Folliard checked the action on his Winchester, the metallic thunk-thunk punctuating the silence. 6 men and the regulator. That's a messy draw inside a card room, kid." Billy ignored the worry in Tom's voice. He was thinking like a strategist, using the element of surprise. A card room is a crowded room. No one wants a gunfight near their winnings. We hit him where he thinks he's safest. "Doc, I need you and Jose to ride toward the Iron Brand. Find where Caney keeps his signed official land deeds, the fraudulent ones, and find out if they're holding Sarah, the daughter. If they've moved her, the game changes." As Doc and Jose rode out, Billy called Charlie and Tom closer, detailing the infiltration plan for the Vulture's Nest. The key was speed and demoralization. They weren't looking for a firefight. They were looking for a duel executed with military precision. During the planning, Charlie expressed a thought that had been gnawing at him. Why did they blind the old man? If they just wanted to steal the land, why didn't they kill him? They wasted time, kid. It don't make sense. Billy looked at the map, tapping a point near the creek. Silas Cole is a known prospector. Before he lost his sight, he was obsessed with that patch of land. Rance and Stone didn't just want the pasture, they wanted something under the pasture. The real claims Caney wants are a distraction. Silas has a hidden treasure, a map, a deed, a secret mine, and they tried to beat the location out of him. Doc and Jose returned just before dawn, riding hard. They had found the Iron Brand to be heavily fortified, but had uncovered a crucial piece of intelligence. Doc spoke, his face pale beneath the dust. "Sarah, the daughter, isn't at the ranch, kid. Sheriff Rance moved her to an old abandoned stagecoach relay station deep in the canyons, the crossroads. It's isolated, only 2 guards, and Stone is due to meet her there tomorrow morning to trade her life for the original land deeds. They think she'll crack when she sees the regulator." The news brought a fresh wave of cold fury. The crime had escalated from land theft and murder to extortion and kidnapping. The need for justice was now immediate, personal, and profoundly dangerous. "The plan changes," Billy announced, his voice snapping with authority. "Stone is the priority. We hit the vulture's nest at midnight, secure Stone, and ride straight to the crossroads. We use Stone as bait or as a warning. Charlie, you secure our exit route. Leave no tracks but ours. Tom, you're my backup in the saloon. I'm walking in alone to face the regulator. It's the fastest way to get to the girl." Tom looked at the darkness swallowing the entrance to the canyon. "He blinded the old man, kid. He won't hesitate to shoot a boy." "He'll hesitate when he realizes I'm the one who answers the plea of the blind," Billy retorted, checking the cylinder of his Colt. "Tonight, we light the fire. Tomorrow, we burn the sheriff's world to the ground." The trio mounted up, disappearing into the desert night, the silence of the canyon replaced by the distant promise of gunfire. The hunt for the regulator had begun. The vulture's nest was a wretched hive of card cheats, drunken ranch hands, and Kane's hired thugs. It sat like a toadstool in the desert, its single greasy oil lamp throwing a sickly yellow circle onto the dusty path outside. Inside, the noise was deafening, shouts, shuffling cards, and the screech of a fiddle struggling to be heard. Jed, the regulator Stone, was the focus of the room, seated at a back table, his large frame radiating an aura of casual menace. He was flanked by 3 rough-looking gunmen, their eyes constantly sweeping the door. Billy the Kid entered alone, the wide brim of his hat dipping as he crossed the threshold. The noise didn't stop, but every gambler and roughneck paused, their bodies freezing mid-action, mid-drink. The silence that followed was heavier than the desert heat, broken only by the continuous grating scrape of Stone's boot against the floorboards. Billy walked straight to the bar, his hands hanging loose at his sides, his every movement economical and controlled. He looked younger than his reputation suggested, almost frail next to the bulk of Stone's men, but there was an unnatural stillness in his posture that betrayed his lethal skill. "Bartender!" Billy called out, his voice clear and sharp. "Give the regulator's table a round of rye and charge it to Mr. Bonney." Stone slowly looked up, his eyes meeting Billy's. Stone's face was hard, deeply scarred, reflecting years of unfeeling violence. "I don't drink with rustlers, boy." "I ain't a rustler, Stone. I'm here on behalf of Silas Cole." The name dropped like a lead weight. The room went absolutely dead. Stone's lips peeled back in a predatory grin. "The blind old fool. I thought the buzzards got him. What's he sending a damn kid to do? Bring me a pamphlet?" "He sent me to bring him justice," Billy said, stepping slightly away from the bar, placing himself perfectly in the center of the room. "He asked hell for help, Stone, and hell heard him." Stone drew his gun, a heavy, custom-made Colt Peacemaker, but before the hammer could even clear the holster leather, the air was ripped apart by the deafening crack-crack of 2 fast shots. Billy had drawn his own Colt, 45, faster than a striking rattlesnake. Stone staggered back, his eyes widening in disbelief, his pistol discharging uselessly into the ceiling. His massive body crashed through the table, splintering the wood and scattering cards and money everywhere. The regulator was dead. The immediate chaos was contained by the sudden chilling appearance of Tom O'Folliard and Charlie Boder, who materialized in the doorway, Winchesters held steady. The saloon, which a moment ago was a viper's nest, instantly became a cage. 3 of Stone's men surrendered immediately. The 4th, a nervous young gun named Benny, tried to make a break for the back window and was instantly dropped by a precise shot from Charlie Boder's rifle, a warning that left him wounded but alive. Billy approached Benny, holstering his smoking gun. Benny was whimpering, clutching his shattered shoulder. Doc Scurlock knelt down, administering a quick tourniquet. "You're not going to die, Benny," Doc said calmly. "But you're going to talk. Where is Sarah Cole being held? If you lie, I take the bandage off." The pain and the shock of seeing their feared regulator gunned down by a mere boy cracked Benny instantly. "The crossroads, the old stagecoach relay. Sheriff Rance took her there. They said Stone was coming in the morning to finish the deal with the deeds. They told us it'd be an easy night." "How many guards, Benny?" 2. Just 2, man. They thought no one would find her there. Rance is due back at the sheriff's office in the morning, getting the papers notarized. It's a trap, Bonnie. They want you to come to the crossroads. It's a dead-end canyon. Billy looked at Doc and Tom. The information was vital. The crossroads was a well-known choke point. Rance had been using Sarah as bait, expecting Stone to complete the extortion, not realizing his best gun was now cooling on the saloon floor. We're not waiting for Rance to ride. We ride now before Rance hears about the regulator. Charlie, take these 3 cowards and tie them up. Leave them for the town to deal with. Doc, Tom, let's mount up. We've got a girl to fetch. Billy looked down at Benny, who was now pleading for his life. You helped the men who branded a blind man, Benny. You deserve no quarter, but you gave up the girl. I'm going to make you an example. With a final clean shot, Billy executed the last gunman who directly served the regulator. Justice was brutal and swift, leaving no loose ends that could harm Sarah. They rode out of the vulture's nest, leaving the body of Jed Stone amidst the ruined poker tables, a terrifying message left for Baron Kane and Sheriff Rance. The sun was about to rise, and the final confrontation was now unavoidable. The ride to the Crossroads stagecoach relay was a desperate gallop against the rising sun. The old relay station was set deep in a narrow, rocky gorge, exactly as Benny had described, a natural trap. Billy, Doc, and Tom dismounted half a mile away, moving on foot, the silence of their approach broken only by the crunch of fine grit under their boots. The station was a single low adobe building and a small corral. 2 men, Caney's thugs, were visible, one leaning lazily against the front door, the other smoking a cigarette near the corral. They were relaxed, confident in the isolated safety of the gorge. Doc Scurlock, the planner, provided the approach. I'll take the one by the corral. Tom, you silence the man on the door. No gunshots. We need the girl. Before Rance realizes Stone's plan went south. The execution was silent, efficient, and brutal. Doc, using his skills developed from years on the frontier, used a weighted rope to silence the corral guard, a silent choke that left the man collapsed in the dust. Simultaneously, Tom O'Folliard, moving with the deceptive swiftness of a seasoned killer, cracked the door guard's neck with the butt of his Winchester. The air was still. The only proof of the violence was the 2 fresh corpses. They found Sarah Cole shackled inside a small, stifling room, her face tear-stained, but her eyes burning with defiance. She was Clay's wife, Silas's daughter, the living proof of the injustice. Sarah Cole, I'm Billy Bonney. Your father sent me. You're free. As Doc worked quickly to cut the shackles, the sound of hoofbeats, fast, hard, and numerous, began echoing off the canyon walls. It wasn't a patrol. It was a posse. Rance. He must have figured it out, Doc muttered, tossing the broken chains onto the floor. Billy pulled Sarah toward the back window. Tom, get the horses. Doc, take Sarah and get out through the north trail, the one Jose scouted. Get her to the Prophet. Tell him the score is settled. Billy, however, remained. He grabbed a box of dynamite and a few spare weapons from the station's supply room, then settled in behind the overturned water trough near the front door. He was waiting for the sheriff. He knew the crossroads was a place for final decisions. Sheriff Rance, a heavy, arrogant man with a sweat-stained uniform and a twin pair of customized colts, rode in first, pulling his horse up so hard the animal reared. He saw the dead guards and the overturned water trough. He saw Billy. He saw the end of his comfortable corruption. He was alone. His deputies, scattered by the vulture's nest chaos, were nowhere to be seen. Bonnie, you reckless idiot! You killed Jed Stone. Stone was worth 10 of your kind. You just signed your own death warrant, boy, Rance roared, his voice thick with a rage that bordered on panic. Billy stepped out from behind the trough, his hands hanging loose near the grips of his pistols. The sun, now high and incandescent, beat down, casting no shade. The air was completely still, the silence, the heavy, suffocating silence of a grave. Every sound, the nervous shifting of Rance's horse, the rhythmic thump of Billy's heart, was magnified. The duel was a study in contrasts. Rance, the official lawman, was red-faced, desperate, clutching his badge like a charm against the inevitable. His clothes were damp with nervous sweat, his movements labored by fear and his own bulk. Billy, meanwhile, was fluid, lean, his focus absolute. The desert sun, which had blinded Silas Cole, now acted as Billy's accomplice, glinting off the polished barrel of Rance's gun, momentarily distracting the sheriff's vision. Billy's stance was rooted, the perfect geometry of a man who lives by the gun. The air, thick with the scent of dry earth and the metallic tang of fear, hung suspended, waiting for the one sound that would define the moral boundary between the law that fails and the outlaw who answers. This was the final exchange of a corrupted system for a violent, self-imposed justice. You branded a blind man, Sheriff. You killed an honest farmer over a piece of ground. You took the girl. I'm here to tell you that in the West, some debts can't be paid in silver, only lead. Rance, recognizing his imminent demise, fired first, a panicked, inaccurate shot that kicked up dust near Billy's left boot. Billy drew and fired, his two Colts speaking almost as one. Crack, crack. The shots were precise, devastating. Sheriff Rance's heavy body spun and dropped, his badge sinking into the canyon dirt beside him, a symbol of authority ruined by avarice. The silence returned, absolute and final. Billy holstered his guns, the smoke quickly dissipating in the still air. He grabbed Rance's saddlebag, containing the officially notarized fraudulent deeds, and burned them with a match. He rode back, catching up to Doc, Tom, and Sarah at the mouth of the canyon. They rode hard back to Dust Devil Creek, where the townspeople, having seen the chaos, were waiting, eyes wide with terror and hope. Billy led Sarah straight to her father, Silas Cole, who still sat in the store, bathed in the shaft of light. "Papa!" Sarah rushed to him, embracing him fiercely. Silas, the blind prophet, smiled, his milky eyes wet with tears. "I knew hell heard me, Bonnie. I knew it." Billy handed him Rance's recovered journal and the charred remains of the fraudulent deeds. The score was settled, but the final payment remained. The aftermath of the Tombstone Pass incident, known now across the territory as the Prophet's Judgment, was swift and uncompromising. Baron Silas Caney's network of corruption crumbled overnight. With Sheriff Rance and Jed Stone dead, the truth emerged, fueled by the witnesses Billy's gang had spared in the vulture's nest. Caney, realizing his power was gone, fled the territory, leaving his Iron Brand ranch to be looted by the very men he had once exploited. Silas Cole, the blind prophet, was now revered by the homesteaders. He and Sarah, with the original rightful deeds to their land secured, had won. Their payment to Billy, however, was not cash. Silas, tapping the ground with his brass-tipped stick, produced an ancient, heavily protected map, the true treasure Caney had sought, a previously unrecorded rich silver claim deep in the Sierra del Fuego mountains. "This is yours, Billy," Silas said, handing the map to the kid. "It's more silver than Caney ever dreamt of. A king's ransom. Use it to ride clean." Billy looked at the map. A life of quiet wealth. It was an inviting thought, but one he knew was impossible. He was a symbol now, not just a man. He folded the map, tucking it inside his shirt. "The debt is settled, Silas, but a ghost can't spend silver." The price for justice was high. News of the Prophet's judgment had finally reached the territorial governor, who immediately dispatched his most feared, most relentless lawman, Marshal Jedediah Knox, a man whose methods were as effective as Billy's, but whose loyalty lay strictly with the badge. Knox was on the trail, closing fast. Billy knew his time with the gang was over. They met one last time under the enormous silent vault of the desert sky. Doc Scurlock, Tom O'Folliard, and Charlie Bodra were ready to fight to the last, but Billy knew better. "No more fighting, boys. We won. We gave the Prophet his sight back, and we ruined the Baron. Now you ride out. Doc, you take this map, sell the claim, go to California, start a new life. Tom and Charlie, you take the southern trail, disappear into the border dust. Knox is coming, and he's not after a gang, he's after the legend. Tom O'Folliard protested fiercely, his voice cracking with emotion. We swore we'd ride together, kid. We're your family. And I won't lose my family to a posse. The truth lives through the prophet, but the myth lives through the fugitive. I'm the target, boys. I'm the diversion. If I'm never caught, the story lasts forever. Now ride, don't look back. One by one, the loyal outlaws mounted up and rode into the different cardinal directions, their silhouettes melting into the pre-dawn shadows. Billy watched them go, a single tear cutting a clean path through the dust on his cheek. It was the hardest moment of his young life, trading brotherhood for immortality. Billy turned his own horse, setting a deliberate, clear path north, the easiest and most obvious trail for Marshal Knox to follow. He was shedding the last vestiges of William H. Bonney, replacing flesh and blood with the hard, enduring material of myth. The silver claim map remained untouched inside his vest. He didn't need wealth, he needed distance. He became a master of vanishing, leaving subtle, misleading signs, a fresh cigarette butt, a half-eaten can of beans, a clear boot print, always suggesting he was just minutes away, just over the next ridge. The constant chase became his sanctuary, his perpetual state of existence. The sun-bleached canyons and the wind-scoured mesas swallowed him whole, transforming the youthful gunman into an incorporeal warning to all corrupt authority. He was the perpetual consequence. Marshal Knox and his men followed the trail relentlessly. They found Billy's campsites. They found the faint outline of his Stetson left carelessly on a rock. They found his last empty whiskey bottle, but they never found the man. Knox spent years pursuing the ghost, riding faster and farther than any man should, always believing he was on the verge of capture. In every remote saloon, every dusty trading post, the stories of the blind prophet and the outlaw who answered his plea grew louder, more elaborate and more real than the man himself. William H. Bonney vanished from the pages of the living, becoming a spectral avenger. He was the swift, untamed shadow, riding the edges of the law, the ghost who haunted the arroyos, forever pursued, yet never truly seen. He rode eternally, cemented as the ultimate legend of the Wild West.